So we're going to set up a SQL Server in the cloud, just like you could set up one with Microsoft SQL Server Developer Edition on your computer. We're going to do the same thing, but in the cloud using Microsoft Azure, which is Microsoft's, kind of way of doing everything in the cloud. Anything you want to do in the cloud, you can do in the cloud. You can do it, and you do it with Azure. So even something as simple as just a SQL Server, we can create that in the cloud. I'm going to do this for students. So if you're a student, make sure you're looking up Azure student account to set up your student account and get $100 for free. So like we can just click on the first link here, and just do start for free, and then log into your student email. There's a little form to fill out, and then it'll give you like a green check mark. Hey, you're verified. Once that happens, we're gonna hop over to the Azure portal. It should give you a link. If it doesn't, you should be able to just look up Azure portal. Like first real thing is gonna hop you in it once you sign in, and then it brings you right here. So you're going to want to make sure you're on this page here. You already can see I have some of what is called resources. This is the cloud is highly modular, so we can do a lot of different things in here without having a full computer, or we can get a full computer. It's the cloud, it's whatever we want. So resources are kind of how it's all broken up. You can build a solution, a whole chain system using multiple different resources that just fit you perfectly. So for us today, the resource we want to make is a SQL Server. And then within a SQL Server, we're going to make a database. They are two separate resources, but they're built in together. We're going to set it up right now so you kind of get to see how they work together. But once you're here, if it hasn't already, you'll probably see this Azure for Student subscription. All of the resources that we make, the server and databases, all the things you should be concerned about, it'll just be billed through this Azure for Student subscription because we get our free credit. And if you're ever curious, you can always click on there and come down here to cost analysis, and you can even see kind of what the spending's like. So like in the past, I had this, and it stored a few files for me, right? I was basically had no cost, and then we tried out the SQL Server a little while ago, and oh, look at that, we spent 86 cents a day. Not a whole lot of concern whenever we have $100 limit, to be spending $86 to run this for a few hours. So it will, there's some fun things in here if you're serious about it, but either way. We'll come back here later, and I'll teach you guys how to put in like a cap and an alert, so that way we don't accidentally run out of our $100 bill way too quickly and then have to spend our own money on it. But for now, we're just going to go back to home. So we're going to create a resource. We're going to create our SQL database. That way we can, start using it. So skip this guy. We're just going to go up here, right? We're going to look up SQL database. Top one. That's perfect. Click on that. I already have, the one I created earlier here, but this will just show none. It'll probably have like a, hey, create a database button. So you can also come up here. We're going to say, hey, I want to create a database. And we're coming here to this page here. You don't have to worry about this stuff, right? Usually people are using these servers for way, way, way more than we will be using them. So this is kind of like a, hey, if you're like, going to be using this with 200 other users, we got some cool stuff for you. And, oh, it's going to cost you $320 a month. That's not what we're too concerned about. Just skip by that. It should default to your only subscription. If not, just click on it, and then Azure for Students. And then after a subscription, resources you can add like a grouping type of thing where you can like do some more cost analysis on it. I made this funny one for a different thing that I'm doing, but we can just call this, SMU ITOM. It does not have to be all caps. I thought I could create one. Oh, sorry, right here, create new SMU ITOM. Yeah, you do have to create one, which is a little annoying, but it is there. Then after that, we're going to go on here and make a database name. You can name this whatever you want, but I think there's like 2 or 3 times we actually make a database in here, so you will have to go through these steps again. It's not a huge deal. We'll review that in class if need be. But like a database name here, we can just call it like ITOM 3360. Make it easy. And then here's the select a server. Right now, I already created a server earlier, right? You can see it right here. But for you, there's probably nothing there. So we need to then create new, which is going to bring us to a new server window. So you can name your server whatever you want. No caps. SMU ITOM 3360. This is not a big deal. You can leave it on East US. You can move it down here. South Central is technically close. This is the literal data center where your server will live. So do you want to be on the east side of the country, or do you want to be South Central? It's kind of where it's very close to where we are. So you can choose that. Just make sure you stay in the US. Don't go overseas. Down here, we do want to make sure that we're using both SQL Server and Microsoft Entra Authentication. That's your Microsoft account. They like to keep renaming it. That's really all it is for as far as you're concerned. So as far as like set an admin, this is kind of the same thing whenever we were setting up and we said, hey, make sure to add myself in here. So just look up yourself and just say, yeah, I want to make sure that I myself am an admin on here just to be safe. It's not like if you don't do that, you'll lose it, but it's a good idea to do it now. And then you kind of, hey, let's make something up here. Kind of default SQL admin is just like SSMS admin. Name whatever you want. Do whatever password you want. I guess we need I'm gonna do a different password. There you go. Hopefully you guys remember it. This is kind of way that if, oh man, I can't access my Microsoft account, you can just use this and access it. Not a big concern for us messing around in here and just using the stuff for educational purposes. And a company's big server that holds confidential data, much bigger issue, and they have other ways I hope to protect that. But for us, not too worried. So we can just hit OK on that, and it's going to save all that in here, right? So now whenever we create this resource, it will also create that server. Elastic Pool's not a huge thing. You can read this if you want. It's a thing that's really more for, again, real world deployment. We don't really care. We're also going to say, hey, we are in development. It's not a huge difference, but like it says, default settings. So compute plus storage, so general purpose serverless. So yeah, we have very small computing, right? We can click on here and kind of get an idea of it. Most budget friendly. So we're getting like virtual cores, right? So think about like your computer has a chip in it. If you know how many cores you have, cool. This is like a virtual thing. A server has big computer chips in there that has like 96 or some number of cores. They'll just kind of say, hey, you get one or two of those, and somebody else gets more, instead of building a lot of little computers, right? So most budget friendly. That's more than happy to do that. And in serverless here, it just says, hey, we're billing you as you use them, right? We're billing per second. So if you need to do something, we'll kind of just do that and then go away. Provision is like you always have these two cores available to you. When you're not using them, they're not doing anything, but we're billing you them for their time. So we kind of say, hey, you leave it at one minimum, use half of one. Auto pause delay is pretty cool. It just kind of says, hey, you can start up your server, and then after an hour, it's going to completely shut down. So there's truly no billing after that. The minimum is an hour. So we're going to say, hey, yes, make sure it's enabled. Definitely 1 hour. And then, we're not going to use more than 32. I mean, you can even move this down to I bet you could do one, but, let's make it 8 or something. Or maybe less than that. Let's do like 5. Who cares? You're not going to use a whole lot. And then do we make this zone redundant? That's just, again, for like a real deployment thing in case something happens to the literal physical server that it's on. If that thing goes down, is it redundant somewhere else? Not a big deal for us. If something happens, we'll live. And then now we come back to that whole, estimated cost. And it's like, yeah, we're spending, next to nothing. That 86 cents that I was spending earlier, that was actually because I did provision it originally, and then I came back in here and made it serverless. So that shouldn't even be as much as we're spending. Then we can hit apply, right? So that didn't really change anything here, but just brought down the storage. But then we come down here again, another thing of redundancy. We're fine. You have to choose something locally redundant. It's good. Just means it's really close to you. Okay, once we're done with that, we're going to go here to networking. Networking connected, we just are going to go and say public endpoint. Again, bad idea. If you're, this is a real server for a real company, you don't want it to be accessed everywhere, but we're just us. We don't want to have to go through working with networking issues in class. So just go ahead and say, hey, this is public. We can kind of use it wherever we want. If you guys are working at home, it just kind of works. We don't need any sort of firewall rules or anything like that. We don't need any connection policies. The rest of this is all good. We can flip through these if you want. There's not a whole lot here. Don't really click on any of this stuff. You can explore it. And we want to get here to where it says review and create. Okay, and then we're going to go and create here at the bottom. It's going to do a little quick check, see validating, making sure we set it up correctly. And now it's going to go through something called deployment, where it's just, hey, we're going to set everything up. We're going to create it. And it's going to take a minute or two. Once it's done, come back here, and we will go through the last few steps. Okay, now that it's deployed, we're just want to go ahead and head back home here. We're done with our SQL Server resource. We just want to do a few things, like I said at the beginning, to our subscription. to make sure we don't accidentally go spend over $100 that we're given on credit and then have to fork over some of our own money. So you guys will see here, there's this red line here at the top, and it says, oh, your monthly budget's $20. We're not over it at all, um, but we're forecasted, only a few cents. So how do we set that up? We can go down here to budgets. I have one right here, but we are going to go and click add. Right, so the scope is our whole subscription, right? So every resource that's built on a subscription, which right now we have only one subscription, is all of our resource, is what we're talking about. We have to give it, a fun name, so I'll call it, budget 2, because I already have one. And we're only concerned about the month. If we go quarter annually, that's beyond the scope of our class, so it doesn't really help if we have an alert that's for larger than our class. Great, we created it today. We want it to start. But expiring, hey, at the end of next year, why not, And then what is our budget? What do we not want to spend more than? I said $20 earlier. Let's go even lower. I don't want to spend more than $10 a month, because we should only be sending really a few cents each class period, which is really only happening once a month. Maybe you have to do a little bit for homework or whatnot, but still a very little amount of time. So we were going to click next. And then, hey, what type of alerts do you want? Well, hey, if our actual forecast, right? So did we actually spend a certain amount, or we just forecasted to spend a certain amount? So forecast, right, is going to come before our actuals unless we get a really strange spike. So, hey, if we are forecasted to spend all $10, well, then you should email me. So down here on emails, we can go and put in, your email address, like so. Of course, it doesn't hurt to go and put actual in here as well, just in case we get a weird spike. The forecast may not catch up quickly enough. So either way, right, if it's forecast, if we actually are going to spend all of our budget, send me an email. That way I can get this thing stopped before I spend all of my credit and get in a little bit of trouble, right? Don't have to worry about the rest of this. We're going to hit create again through that validation phase. And there we go. Our budget was created. So what's kind of saying up here is, hey, we are 4.5% of the way through our $20 budget, because we're only at 89 cents. We're not anywhere through our new $10 budget. It's got to work on that a little bit because it's only created today. And then if you want to be extra safe, there's this thing called cost alerts. It's not quite as granular as budgets. You can either say anomaly. We don't have any reserved instances. So anomaly is just, hey, if something weird happens, however they want to calculate something weird, you can go through this form and set that up as well. But yeah, we also made it, very specific to what we wanted here. Hey, $10 is what I'm concerned about. If we suddenly spend an extra 20 cents on a Monday, that's not an anomaly. That's fine. But again, who knows how it will calculate that and notify you. So now if you come back to your cost analysis, you should see a nice red dotted line. This is $10. This is what we said our budget was. And this is how close we are on a nice little graph. And hey, our database is, obviously the majority of that. Once you get that thing running, again, this is just kind of for fun. If you want, as long as you put in that budget, it's just a good way to make sure that in case something, you missed a button on the settings and, oh, I forgot to, set it to automatically turn off, or I did it as a provision instance, which, takes up a lot more money, then you're going to get a little alert before everything goes down the drain. And we'll all be safe. As far as connecting goes, head back home. Once you're back home, we're going to want to go to our SQL database, not our SQL server. Go to our SQL database. And up here, you're going to see server name, right? It seems a little silly. We have to go here, but go ahead and press this copy. This is how we're going to connect. We need to have this address. And then in SQL Server Management Studio, whenever you see that connection, you're going to paste that right here in the server name, right? And then you can try user Active Directory, right? Log in with your SMU email, go through, do a verification if you want. If that's not working, go ahead and do SQL Server Authentication. Remember that admin that we made? So SSS admin, your password. You can click remember password out. You don't even have to click it again. And you can go through connect. And it will pop up over here. Now, because it is in the cloud, and especially whenever we're all in a classroom on slow internet trying to go to pretty close to the same place, this may get a little slow, especially the first time. I started the server up a little bit earlier, so it's still running. It's a little quick for me, but it may say, hey, this whole expanding thing for a little bit, and it may even pop up an error. Oh, we kind of connected, but we didn't, is kind of the gist of that error. Go ahead and hit OK. You're good as long as you can keep going. You're fine. If you hit OK and an error and then you can't do anything, it's not working, then raise your hand. But that error pops up a lot. I really don't know why it happens all the time, even on other Azure products that I connect to through SSMS. It still pops up. I don't know if it's a glitch or if it's something with the networking, but again, that's why I was like, let's not mess around with the networking. Let's make it public. And at the very least, that error pops up. We hit OK, and we keep living our life. And that's it. So you don't have to go back into Azure anymore unless you want to play around with that costing and take a look. But now, whenever you're wanting to access your SQL Server, you just hop in here, connect to it, and it'll pop up over here. It'll be pretty slow for a little bit while it's starting up, but then once it gets going, it's pretty much just a few seconds to go through the expanding process, and then you're good to go. So it might be a little slow, but it's in the cloud and always ready to go.